There is a viral idea circulating that you can grow backyard plants containing twice the protein of a chicken breast. It sounds incredible, but the math relies entirely on a trick of hydration. Fresh chicken has 31 grams of protein per 100 grams, while fresh moringa carries 9. To reach 27 grams, you must dehydrate a towering pile of fresh foliage down into a single scoop. Consuming that raw volume is physically exhausting. These plants offer dense nutrition, but replacing your grocery bill requires confronting the daily operational realities of a garden, rather than relying on biological potential alone. The true barrier to homegrown protein independence is the intense physical friction of post-harvest processing. To evaluate if a crop belongs in your soil, you must weigh 3 strict limitations: your climate zone, your patience, and your tolerance for manual labor. This quadrant chart maps real-world value. We track protein yield on the vertical axis against cultivation friction on the horizontal. The ideal crop sits top left, massive yield, minimal effort. But most superfoods land top right, heavy payloads demanding intense labor. Let's plot our 10 crops. Instead of a simple ranked list, we will group these crops by the specific logistical problems they solve for a home gardener. Securing a reliable food supply means aligning a plant's biological demands with your daily routine. We begin with the perennial powerhouses, asparagus and tree collards. Portuguese settlers brought tree collards from the Azores, embedding them into steep coastal terraces. Generations of farmers relied on these specific plants as a continuous, reliable food source during difficult periods. These crops exact a heavy upfront toll. You must permanently surrender garden space, and with asparagus, you wait 2 full years before taking a single substantial harvest. That heavy initial wait buys you a reliable, completely passive yield that continues producing every year for 2 to 4 decades. Looking at this comparison matrix, the key input required here is time. While the fresh protein yield per serving sits modestly between 2 and 4 grams, the cumulative decade-over-decade output is massive. The crucial trade-off is flexibility. Once these extensive root systems are established, you lose the ability to rotate your crops or redesign your garden layout. Perennials offer immense value to stable, patient homeowners, but they fail completely for temporary renters or anyone needing immediate calories. Next are the extremophiles. These plants deliver elite protein concentrations on the condition that you provide a harsh, highly specific environment. The tepary bean evolved alongside the indigenous people of the Sonoran Desert. It yields up to 23 grams of complete protein per dry 100 grams, relying on extreme baking heat and virtually zero rainfall to mature. In stark contrast, the winged bean and moringa tree demand intense heat and tropical humidity. They require deep, wet seasons to achieve their massive yields of 30 grams or more. Forcing a desert tepary bean into wet, rich loam, or planting a tropical winged bean in a frosty, temperate zone guarantees rotted roots and total crop failure. Chaya, the Mayan tree spinach, operates as an extremophile with a chemical barrier. The raw leaves of the chaya plant contain toxic compounds. You must boil or sauté them for at least 5 minutes to neutralize the threat and safely access their elite levels of iron, calcium, and protein. This updated matrix tracks our extremophiles. Here, the primary input isn't daily labor, it is strict geographical alignment. These extreme protein outputs demand almost zero soil amendment, provided the plants are placed in the exact harsh climate they evolved to survive. Astronomical yields appear only when you stop fighting your native climate zone. Our final category covers the nutrient-dense annuals that replicate the dry goods sitting in your pantry. Quinoa is exceptionally hardy, thriving in poor, rocky, high-altitude soils where traditional agriculture fails. Harvesting the seed is simple, but processing it is punishing. You must manually and aggressively wash the tiny grains to strip away their natural saponin coating. Hemp carries a similar physical bottleneck. Accessing the 31 grams of complete protein locked inside the seeds requires the manual labor of threshing the dried heads by hand. The labor cost of threshing, winnowing, and washing these grains at home heavily outweighs the financial cost of simply buying them in bulk at a store. Edamame provides a rare exception. You harvest the pods, steam them whole, and eat them straight from the shell, accessing 11 grams of protein with near zero processing friction. This final matrix forces a direct comparison between the hours of physical processing labor and the cheap retail cost of these commodities. Securing a perfect amino acid profile from your backyard is biologically possible, provided you accept the tedious manual labor required to refine the harvest. We can translate this data into a direct action plan. This decision tree flow starts with one question: what is your primary constraint? If you are time poor or managing a small suburban plot, you avoid processing entirely. You plant edamame for immediate yields and tree collards for passive, ongoing production. If your garden faces extreme weather, you match the hazard. Drought points you to topari beans, while heavy, sweltering humidity routes you to the winged bean and moringa. If your priority is deep self-reliance and soil health, you accept the manual labor and plant lentils and hemp. You trade your labor for secondary agricultural benefits. Lentils actively fix nitrogen into depleted dirt, and hemp taproots shatter compacted earth, prepping the soil for next year's crops. The best plant on this list is entirely subjective. It is the one that survives your specific brand of neglect. True food autonomy is a systems design problem. Your success relies on workflow and environment, rather than the magic of a single seed. Preserving these ancient genetics outside of industrial agriculture falls to individuals willing to cultivate them. Replacing the grocery store requires ruthlessly matching the biological advantages of a crop to the environmental realities of your backyard.